It's already live.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's already live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, let's go. All right, we are good.
Okay. You want to count us in? I don't go until he says action.
In 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to Kickin' It with Matthew on today, this beautiful crisp September day here in Tampa Bay, Florida. And by crisp, I mean it was 85? No, it was 88 when I went to go get the dog.
It's all relative.
Yeah, that's true. It's crisp here, but because
Okay.
it was 95 last week. Welcome, everybody. This is Weather Talk with our hosts, Pastor Matthew and Andy. It's good to see everybody.
Because it's not a sports podcast.
It is not a sports podcast, even though I would like to turn this into a sports podcast.
Like figuring it out.
It's also not a sports podcast.
It's not a sports podcast.
Definitely not. And that's even right on the tagline right there. It's coming out of one of their mouths.
Which, by the way,
Austin's mouth.
I know. What are the analytics on that? Austin, are more people watching you and Spencer versus you and Mike?
No. Well,
What's happening?
Well, the last episode we posted, it was big.
yeah, the last episode was clickbaity, so that's how we do
Oh,
things. Yeah,
okay.
that's how we do things around here.
101.
Yeah.
All right.
So no, actually, the analytics are more people watch the weekday, more people listen to figuring it out. It's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Don't know.
And for the three of you that actually watch or hear this at any time, we're grateful for you.
Hey, there's you got to add a multiplier.
You
So
got-
it's a 3 point whatever. So, hey, welcome to Kicking It with Matthew, where if you've never watched our kind of live segment with Pastor Matthew a couple times a month, we get a chance to just learn a little bit about him, learn about his leadership, and kind of, we get to peel back the curtain a little bit on who's kind of taking Bay Hope Church to the next level. No pressure.
I think it all just reveals a lot more about you than me.
Yeah, this is just we were just talking about James 5 and humility, and yeah, this is just a opposite of James 5 and humility. It's just it's to show
okay.
people that I am, look how modest I am, look how humble I am.
You win the award.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the most humble guy in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I had a couple of questions that were served up, again, by you all. One of them was from me, and actually one of them was from you all. If you ever have a question that you would love to ask Pastor Matthew, please, as always, throw it in the comments of this, or hit us up on our socials, or in any of the contact information below you. I would love to get a chance to connect with you. We've had a good fortune lately of connecting with a lot of you as well. And I really appreciate that. My pastor's heart loves to talk with you and pray with you and all that. So keep on doing that. But if you have any questions for him, let me know. Let me kind of step out of the way. First and foremost, my question for you, number one, what is your favorite hymn, non-Wesleyan hymn of all time?
Non-Wesleyan hymn.
Yep. You have to make that distinction.
Okay.
Because you're Methodist through and through, and so you're going to pick a Wesleyan hymn.
Be thou my vision.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Did you know Be Thou My Vision actually used to be a drinking song? They co-opted a drinking song to be Thou My Vision.
Well, most of Luther's songs, the tunes.
Yes, the tune itself, yeah.
The tune itself were from the Germanic beer gardens and the public halls. And if you think about a lot of the tunes of the early hymns, it wasn't just from that one source. Most of them were public folk songs. And the ancient public folk songs were then co-opted by some of the German beer gardens.
Right.
And so these were just tunes that were in the culture, that people just took and put any kind of lyrics to.
Which I think is hysterical, but
it's great.
But
yeah.
Christianity was doing that since the dawn of time, just kind of like going where people are and being where people were, and that's where the Christmas tree came from. So there you go.
There you go.
Actually, the first question that we wanted to ask him is, you've been in church ministry for many years, and you've done many, 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 many sermon series before. Out of all of those, do you have one or two that you can put your finger on and go, we nailed that one? Not necessarily because again, you are the most humble guy in the room, but the church itself, like, man, that was it. That really hit the point. Anything that really just resonated with you.
I don't remember any of my sermon series. They're all completely forgettable.
Yes. You heard it here first, folks. Don't come to church on Sunday.
There are two that stick out in my mind. One is Slaying Giants,
Okay.
and the other is Pray at Your Own Risk.
I remember Pray at Your Own Risk.
Now, Slaying Giants was one that we did where we basically took the encounter that is from 1 Samuel 17 and following of David and King Saul and the Philistines and the Israeli army and Goliath, and that whole sequence of events that unfolded throughout that particular passage of Scripture. And I believe it was 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, where we just broke that down into some component parts. I remember it started off with a message called Stuck on a Hill Called Fear.
Ooh.
And we went from there. And that was just something that I think not only that I enjoy sinking my teeth into, but there was the response rate, the traction that it got of people, emails or text or conversations, just kind of continuing the conversation on it. So that was Slaying the Giants in our lives. And the other one, Pray at Your Own Risk.
I remember that one.
That was actually adapted from one we had done years ago about the 7 most dangerous prayers in the Bible. And then we sort of reworked it, adapted it, and called it Pray at Your Own Risk. And those were the most pivotal prayers that people had in Scripture. Whether it was, Hezekiah's prayer, or whether it was one of Paul's prayers in the New Testament setting. And you could, in fact, what we discovered in that series that was frustrating was you could take each one of those prayers and make it its own 3 to 5 week series.
Yep.
Kind of like, for instance, when, because Lynn Fukutani, who, if you don't know, is one of our
The amazing Lynn Fukutani.
one of our biblical researchers and curriculum writers around here. She was the one who originally suggested taking that one section of Scripture and making it a whole series. And I initially balked at it and said, I've preached that account, but as one message. And she said, no, I think it could be. I thought, oh, okay. So I went off. In fact, it was at the Starbucks at West Chase.
Oh, okay, West Chase, okay.
I can vividly remember this. And I just sat down with the Bible, sat down with my computer, and I began to say, if you had to say, and it just all fell into place in such a beautiful way. And ideas just started popping and popping and popping. And I thought, oh, Lynn's brilliant. Yes. and God is really showing Lynn's brilliance to me. So, it flowed so easily and went some great places from there.
Awesome. That's cool to hear. I remember Pray at Your Own Risk. I remember actually one that when I started here, we had a series set up and you co-opted it. You kind of came to the creative team and all the pastoral team, and we had a thing set up and you said, God is leading me in a different direction. And that entire summer, it was kind of a summer of revival thing. That was a landmark one for me, coming in, especially as a new employee.
Now the original summer was going to be spent on a series called ID.
Right.
All about your identity.
I remember shooting they shot the bumper with Spencer. Actually, yeah.
Yes.
It was
He
his
had
first
just
thing.
come on
It was his
board.
first thing.
And so we joked with him that he ended
Sorry,
up
kid.
so bad in that bumper we had to scrap the whole sermon series.
Yep.
But because ironically we did that series a little later on.
Yep.
But God kind of took that whole summer in a different direction, which is more about God's attributes and God's miraculous power as opposed to our identity.
Yep.
So that we only find our identity by first clarifying God's glory and God's attributes.
Yep. Yeah, that was great. I remember that one.
Yeah.
That one and Brave, the one right after that, where it was Lord Make Me Brave, because Melissa, I don't know if that was with the magnets.
Yeah, that's right.
With a female face and it just says Brave on it, and then the prayer is Lord Make Me Brave. We have that on our refrigerator, and so every morning when I make a cup of coffee, I turn and I see that right there. Still, to this day, that's 2 years later.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was a good series. Okay, so second question I had for you today. And
Technically, it's the third question.
I mean, technically, it's probably the 20th question,
Okay.
but the second/third question is: you've been leading a church again for umpteen years now. You've been leading staffs of people for umpteen years. As a leader, leaders are readers, and you're constantly having to fill yourself
I thought
with.
it was leaders or eaters.
But that's
It's
it.
readers.
That
I got
too.
that wrong the whole time.
We can talk about the love languages thing if you want to
Okay.
talk about, and how food is the positing now is that food is a love
The
language
sixth
too.
love
Yeah, the
language.
sixth love language. No, what are those influential leaders in your life, personally, but also kind of remotely? The ones you're reading. Who are you surrounding yourself with?
I don't surround myself with anybody, nor do I read anybody. I am the only knowledge that I ever need.
Humility. We can just. Austin, can you switch this to caption to just say we are the most humble people in the humble
Yeah.
church ever?
Yeah. Well,
Don't switch it. Don't switch it. Don't switch it. That's going to be saved on the internet forever.
yeah. For me, the most influential leaders around me are the ones that I have close proximity with.
Yep.
I mean, I can read all I want, or listen to the podcast of, or watch YouTube videos of a lot of different leaders in the Christian realm, the secular realm, and ancient versus contemporary and modern and such. But if I really had to hone it down, saying, all right, who changed me the most? Who influenced me the most? What am I most reflective of? I think I have to go back to what motivational speaker Jim Rohn talks about, and that is, you are the reflection of the 5 closest people in your life. Whether you like that or not.
Is that wife and kids? Does that count?
Typically not.
Okay.
What the illustration he was making is that, yeah, they're part of that orbit, if
Sure.
you will, but it's the 5 people that you most spend time with and interact with, and for good or for bad. When I think about that, I think of people like, George Acevedo,
Yep.
Dale Locke, Joe McLaren, Doug Cox, Max Wilkins, these persons in my covenant group that I've been in for 30 plus years. I also think of some pastors that are in my newest covenant group. I'm in basically 2 now for the past
Splitting time.
2 years.
Splitting time.
Jim Preissig and Mike Schreiner and Jacob Armstrong and Travis Garner, Wes Olds, Craig Robertson, who is the coach, my coach for that group. Because these are guys who are speaking into my life and that I'm most transparent with, most vulnerable with, and they're all leaders in their own right. They may not just be as famous as a Rick Warren
Sure.
or Craig Rochelle,
Sure.
but they're high horsepower leaders just like that. And I find that proximity is what produces the power to change. The closer I am with someone, because that's going to create, for me, the most incentive for follow through, for commitment, is because I have to answer to them. We are living in proximity with each other, and I'm getting to kind of eat, sleep, breathe sometimes, because we literally go on like 3-day retreats with
Eat,
each
sleep,
other
breathe
every
times,
spring
yeah.
and fall.
Yep.
And that, to me, I mean, I've read some great stuff from, the usual suspects, Rick Warren, Andy Stanley, all those. And that's great and all, but that's not produced the most sustainable leadership influence for me as opposed to my covenant group of pastors.
So for those that are watching, listening, either live or on demand, you talk a lot about your covenant group, and you talk a lot about, even there, you're being spiritually formed and really personally formed by the 5 closest people. How does a person that is not a professional Christian, because like it or not, sometimes we are looked at as professional Christians, it's true. How does somebody get into a group like that? How do you even start to identify those people? I didn't prep you for this question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Now, some people have a group of friends, acquaintances, connections around them that's informal. And if they got really intentional about reflecting on it, they would realize, oh, if I had to boil it down, okay, these would be the 5, guys, gals, whatever, that are kind of, I'm most rubbing shoulders with and speaking into my life. So a lot of people have it, they're just not aware of it. And sometimes when you get aware of it, it can be both exciting and terrifying at the same time.
All at the same time, yeah.
Yeah. But to get more intentional about it, saying, well, I want that group. I would like to say I have a group like that. I would say 2 things. One, be very thoughtful and intentional about the kind of qualities and characteristics you want to have expressed by your life.
Yep.
And then you begin identifying those persons in your spheres of relationships and operation that, at least on the surface, are manifesting that. Persons that you are genuinely attracted to, drawn to, that I would like to experience more of what that person seems to have. And you create a long list, then you create a short list, and then it's like the magic secret sauce. You ready for it? This is a big deal.
We're all waiting with bated breath.
You ask them.
Get out of here. Can't do it.
It's
We'll see you next time, guys.
It's very simple. It's very mundane. But you ask anybody. For instance, the covenant group, my original covenant group that I've been in for 30 plus years. We've been asked as an entire group to speak, at the New Room Conference in Nashville before.
Yep.
A certain subset of that group, George and Dale and me, we've spoken at the Asbury Chapel, and Jessica Lagrone, dean of the chapel there, has interviewed us, and so we get asked, all the time by other groups, how do you form a group like that? It's very simple. I was asked to join that group 30 plus years ago, before it even existed. Joe McLaren and Wayne Wyatt, 2 pastors in Florida, made up a list of some other pastors, and they started asking. And I got a call saying, we're thinking about forming up this group. Would you like to have a trial run at this? Sure.
30 years
Let's
later.
check it out.
Here you are.
And yeah, 30 plus years later, I'm with those guys. And there's only been like one change. One is no longer with us, and there's one new person. But it's basically been the same essential group. Not because, we thought, anything magic was happening, but just because 2 guys got together, they come up with a list of names. All right, you ask those 4 guys, you ask those 4 guys. Out of those asks, they got a certain amount of yeses, and we had that group of 7. And there we are.
So your homework, everybody, on this is to go go ask. Is that what you're saying?
Go ask.
There you go. Go ask. Thanks. I appreciate that. That's good. That's very cool to hear. The thing we've been hearing a lot lately, especially now that we're spinning up digital small groups and have been, and we're finally getting them more and more robust each and every kind of semester, is that people need that connection. And I'm hoping that out of those groups, people have kind of the deeper life group. Because I think, you can get in a small group and go, okay, that was great. I'll see you. We spend 6 or 8 weeks together, and then you disperse. But out of that, if you can make 2 or 3 good relationships, I think it was all worth it at that point.
Most definitely. In the Wesleyan tradition, they would call that a band.
Yep, bands.
Because there were bands and classes and societies, but that band was that inner core of the band of believers in your life.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Not like a band like Rubber Band, but band like Rolling Stones band. Speaking of...
Hey, I'm in a band.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Are you a Rolling Stones guy? Awesome. With all of that, thanks for joining us.
Okay.
That was like 5 questions I asked him. Listen, he walks around with a folder. He's very important. He's got stuff to do. Folder and coffee mug. He is
Boom.
He is Mr. Important around here, so I very rarely get time to ask him the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I teach
gotta
this
go.
all the time. I teach this, if you walk around like this, it looks like you're going somewhere, like you're on a mission, like you've got a purpose.
I mean, you're very important.
If you're walking around just like this,
I could, I could
okay.
be.
No, man, you gotta, okay?
That's another trick for you out there, everybody that's listening.
Okay.
Moms and dads, if you want your kids to leave you alone, fold her in a coffee mug, right?
No, if you want your kids alone, just start smooching with your spouse,
Ooh.
and they will clear out.
This is great. This is all great content. Hey,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining on this wild, weird episode of Kicking It with Matthew. We appreciate you. Like I said, if you ever have any questions that you want to ask this guy over here, drop it in the comments or the chat
Or
below.
ask this guy over here.
They
Yeah.
ask me questions all the time, and I answer with aplomb. There we are. Hey, thanks so much for watching. We will see you guys next time.
Okay, should I smooch you now?
Great on the.